I'd like to review my Ghost mountain bike. This is not going to be a typical review because I'm going to review it from the point of a 63-year-old man. Okay, as a 63-year-old, I guess I'm reasonably fit for someone my age. But I come at mountain biking a little differently. A lot of people would say a bike like this is way more bike than what I need, and I'm not going to argue that. But I will tell you that I am totally satisfied with this purchase. I feel like I got every nickel's worth. When you buy something like a bicycle, it's a toy. And the only way it can be evaluated really is how much joy does it give you. It's not how fast it goes or how light it is or any of those other things. And in every way, this Ghost bike has exceeded my expectations. When I bought it, I was looking for 200 millimeters of travel front and rear, and I got that in this bike. And the benefits of that I didn't really understand at the time, but I will tell you something that the salesman won't, that a bike like this is very comfortable to ride. I've ridden this on a 42 kilometer loop that is very grueling, and at the end of it I was exhausted, but the bike was comfortable. My ass never hurt, and I think that's because of the suspension. How can I talk about the handling of this bike? Well, I can't really compare it to anything serious. I mean, I never really owned a good mountain bike before. I owned an inexpensive hardtail before, and I had fun on that, but nothing near what I experienced on this. This thing has hydraulic brakes and hydraulic disc brakes, and my old hardtail had traditional disc brakes. And let me just tell you the advantage. If you're thinking, well, I'm going to do one or the other, and I won't come at it from the point of a super athlete screaming down the hill, just for the average guy. Regular disc brakes are 2 fingers, which is fine, it works great. But these hydraulic disc brakes are 1 finger. You get more feel, and that means you've got more fingers on the handlebars. For an old guy like me, it means it's easier to control. The long suspension travel makes it a little bit easier too when you're an old guy like me, because your knees just don't work the way that they once did. So the suppleness of the suspension makes it easier to keep your feet on the pedals. And if your feet bounce off the pedals, that's a very nasty kind of situation. It's unpleasant at best, and sometimes it can really result in a crash. This has a 2x drivetrain, and when I bought it, you know, there was a lot of hype about the 1x, and I've never driven a 1x, but I can tell you that this system is great. I love it. The gears are very close together for me, just the right distance apart. I'm cranking up the hill and I need just a little bit more brake, that exactly the right amount of step that I need, I get. When I get to the top of the hill, I just switch the front chainring and bingo, I'm ready to go down that hill. I get to a flat, I switch to the bigger front chainring. It works great. Now this has a really good gear set. And if you're thinking because you're older or you're maybe not a killer athlete that it really doesn't matter, well, if you're a killer athlete, maybe it doesn't matter. Because if you're a real killer athlete, shifting down at the wrong time is probably something you're not going to do. I make mistakes. I'm going up this hill and I wait too long to shift gears. Well, a really good transmission or a really good gear set means that I can still shift, and it shifts easily. That's great for a guy like me. Some people in other reviews suggested that in the rear suspension there's not enough clearance for the mud. Well, I don't ride a lot in mud. I mean, there's mud on my bike right now, but I don't seek out mud. I don't go with the intention of finding the biggest, sloppiest mud hole that I can find and see if I can get through it. That's just not how I work. I love the way it looks. It's a black, no-nonsense look. The quality of the finish, the component parts, all are beautifully finished, and that's part of the enjoyment. You could say, you are buying a toy, and if it doesn't give you pleasure, if you don't look at it and feel good about it, what's the point? I mean, I waited too long in my life to discover that sometimes you have to make a purchase based on what's going on in here instead of what's going on in here. And if you make an emotional connection to a product, maybe that's a good thing. One of the things that is a limitation on this, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, you can't, on this frame size, you can't get a water bottle on there. So I had to buy one of these. And I'm still not sold on the water bottle concept because I find it difficult to drink and breathe at the same time. I guess you're not supposed to drink and breathe at the same time, but I find it kind of odd. But I do like that I can stuff some extra stuff in it. A jacket, something to eat, a few tools. That's great. I really haven't done anything to modify this bike. The only thing I'm thinking of is maybe shortening the handlebars a little bit, because I don't need them quite that wide, and sometimes in the trees maybe a little narrower would be great. Honestly, it's one of the few purchases that I've ever made where I feel totally satisfied. Sometimes when you buy a camera, you buy something else, you think, well, this is all I need. And after you buy it, you think, you end up running out and buying the more expensive one. This checks all my boxes. One of the things I didn't really think about when I first went shopping is the drop post, and the drop post is excellent. I would recommend that to anyone. It just gives you that much more. You get to a really nasty downhill. I mean nasty in the best way. It's challenging. There's roots and rocks and whatever. You can drop that seat post. You've got lots of room to maneuver. You feel like, yeah, I'm ready to attack this. This is going to be great. And honestly, too, is it was fun when I first started to ride this, and I thought that I had a skill set that I could pull on from when I was younger. I had a dirt bike. Man, one of the things I discovered, there's a different skill set that's required for a mountain bike. And over the season here, I'm really impressed at how much my skills have improved, and I'm going to say fitness, but I don't know if I'm really any fitter, but there is sport-specific fitness that goes with mountain biking. And I'm charging down the same trails that I was at the beginning of the season with much more speed and more confidence and more smiles. So would I recommend this particular bike? Absolutely. Would I recommend for someone who's asking themselves, should I spend a bunch of money on a mountain bike? I can't answer that, but I can tell you from my point of view, I don't regret any of the money I spent on this. And I'm having a tremendous amount of fun. And one of the things that I find, it's rounded out my life. In the winter, I ski. In the summer, I do this. And there's a lot of similarity between skiing and mountain biking. It gives you some of that same sense of freedom and exhilaration that comes from, you know, making a great turn or going over that little bit of nasty terrain. Anyway, I realize that this hasn't been the most scientific review, but I hope that it answers some questions to somebody that had perhaps less technical questions. I mentioned before about buying not quite enough and then going back. One of the other things I noticed too, bits I've picked up in my life, is there's the leading edge and the bleeding edge. And this bike I bought kind of like it was last year's model, and it was the last one of the last year's model. It fit me and I bought it and I got a great deal on it. This is being videotaped on a GH4. At one time it was the bleeding edge, but I bought it when it was the leading edge. Cost me, I don't know, $1,300. The GH5 now in Canada would cost you about $3,400. That kind of leap, you can do that same sort of math on bicycles or all kinds of things. Anyway, that's my little bit, attempt at wisdom, trying to share something with the community out there. Thank you very much. Have a great day and go for a ride. And I apologize for my filthy hair. I just got back from a ride and I just felt like sharing. Have a great day.